you will only be able to see the presenter and yourself. All other attendees are hidden from your view. Please click on the participants button in the lower right corner of the screen to see the panelist if you can't. With that, I'm going to turn the session over to our presenter.
Thank you, Leanne. Hello, I am Brianna Sisfo, and I'm a gerontologist and caseworker for the Utah Department of Human Services. Let me share my slides here. Great. Okay, so now let's get going. Okay, so like I said, I'm a caseworker for the Utah Department of Human Services and their program, Utah Strong Recovery Projects. So for those that don't know what gerontology is, I study the world of aging. And my focus as a gerontologist is to scientifically understand the process of aging and the problems we might face as we age. We all go through it. So that is where building programs and creating community opportunities to help aid in overall wellness of the aging comes in. Now I would like just to say that how happy I am to and honored to be a panel member of this year's Elder Justice Conference. And as we see the community unite during this time as we need each other most. You know, as Helen Keller once said, just so beautifully, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And reflecting on that quote and my work as a caseworker, remember, it only takes one person to ignite the spark within a community, which brings us into the flame that is Utah. So just to talk about a little bit about Utah Strong Recovery Project. Utah Strong was created during this natural disaster of the COVID-19 pandemic. Though we all came to realize this was not a typical natural disaster. We had to be very creative on the ways we outreach to make sure everyone stayed safe. And we were all kind of a part of this. It was affecting everybody and it was ongoing like it's going on now. I started working as one of their caseworkers in August of 2020. And this program that served under the Utah Department of Human Services, SAMHSA, and a FEMA grant grew to have 40 or more caseworkers that were available for outreach. We outreached in places like Test Utah sites, vaccination sites, homeless shelters, just all and more all over Utah. So not only were we there to help de-escalate the stress of people of Utah by giving them resources, but we also performed psychological first aid so that we were able to assess those that were reaching out to us, whether it was by our crisis line or phone line or in person. And if needed, those that really needed it, we referred them to behavioral health specialists. This is where, as a caseworker and gerontologist, I was determined to help decrease loneliness and isolation and among the older adults during this pandemic. I would like just to point out a picture to the right of your screen. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is a picture of my fiance, who is also a caseworker, and he's putting a smile on a resident's face of a memory care facility during the holidays when he was drawing on the windows. And these are the moments that I cherish the most, and probably the reason why I am a gerontologist and a caseworker right now. So I just also wanted to say that Utah Strong is still helping people in the community try to get back on their feet. And we are all experiencing, some sort of stress. It doesn't have to be linked to COVID-19, but just so you know, we are here, and you can always call us at 385-386-2289 or email us, and 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And, you can call us if you need to talk to us, if you want resources, or if you might are interested in like volunteering, volunteer opportunities, like some of the ones I'm going to explain right now. So mental illness is a huge concern in the United States, even before the pandemic. And it is affecting our lives, with 1 in 5 US adults having some sort of mental illness each year, and 1 in 20 adults having a serious mental illness each year. Now, there is quite a large delay of 11 years between onset of symptoms and when they seek actual treatment. So even if someone might not think they have or they need treatment now at the present moment, due to the effects of, let's say, the pandemic, we are likely to see the statistics increase. But Utah Strong Recovery Project is hoping that we can give the psychological first aid, resources, and overall guidance to help prevent a spike in the future. NAMI explains how important mental health care matters, and this includes therapy, self-care, and medication if needed. With 45% of the adults with mental illness and 66% of the adults with serious mental illness getting treated each year, there are a lot that need our help to be educated. And they need to be educated about mental wellness practices, self-care, and we need to make an effort to destigmatize mental health, because most of us will experience some sort of mental health illness during our lifetime. Whether they are living alone at home or in a long-term care facility or working as a caregiver, we all deserve our own self-love. And accept that during this time, when things are feeling extra hard, that is normal and okay, and it is okay to ask for help. So let's talk about the effects COVID-19 has had on older adults. In March 2021, the CDC reported that out of the 362,019 cases in Utah, individuals who are 65 years and older made up 31% of those infections, 45% of the hospitalizations, 53% of the intensive care unit admissions, and then 80% of the deaths caused by COVID-19. Out of anybody, our older population was significantly more at risk and lost their lives to this virus. Not only did they experience more of an impact health-wise, but they also experienced social isolation and loneliness due to visitation restrictions or overall fear of the virus itself. We can all empathize with this age group since we all went through some sort of change and social distancing. Since 90% of the US was under shelter in place orders starting April of 2020. As stated in a longitudinal study in loneliness, health, and mortality in old age, loneliness is associated with higher rates of depression and mortality. So it's very important that we really try to make sure people are not lonely. Research indicates the relations on loneliness and mortality are it increases vascular resistance, increases systolic blood pressure, diminishes sleep, and diminishes immunity. Though, since there is a stigma on the term lonely and isolation and mental health in general, it can be very hard to identify within somebody, let alone encourage them to seek help when needed. So I have actually 2 questions for you that you can answer in the discussion box while I continue to do my speech. First, you can answer, what self-care are you doing daily for yourself daily, especially during this pandemic? What sort of creative ways have you been doing self-care? And also, what is something creative that you can think of that can help with mental health and mental health and care for older adults during the pandemic? And you can start kind of discussing that in the box, and we will, at the end of the session, kind of discuss about that some more.
Pardon me, Brianna.
Yes.
Attendees, if you click on the QA in the bottom right of your screen, you'll see the QA panel, and you'll be able to answer your question, and then our panelists will be able to see it at the very end and tell Brianna. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, we'll go back to that and we'll discuss a little bit more about those. All right. So the CDC gave a spine-tingling visual of how high risk adults 65 years and older are to this virus. When the CDC says 8 out of 10 COVID deaths are people 65 years and older, I receive like an urge to help these people and protect these people. As a gerontologist, I want older adults to live their lives, the rest of their lives, without fear. And I want to give back to them what they gave to us. This is where we need a community to unite and do our best to participate in the services that will make the difference in at least one person's life. It could be just one person, and that service could be just a smile. That could make the most out of one person's life. Just showing that you are there and they are not alone. So now I want to present to you a few projects I have been working on to help older adults during this time of stress and uncertainty. This first project is one of many that is in the beginning stages called the Connectors Project. One of my favorite quotes by Brené Brown is, "I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. When they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship." This is a perfect definition for what the Connectors Project does just that, allowing students to teach older adults to use iPads and Zoom for telehealth purposes for the HMHI Geriatric Psychiatry Clinic. By using volunteers from the University of Utah, from departments like gerontology, psychology, health sciences, and hopefully in the future, many more. The Connectors Project is a way to help older adults with technology barriers and link them to not only their appointments, but to a whole new world and life on the internet. After opening up this COVID-safe volunteer opportunity to the students, they were eager to assist in the improvement of the older adults' mental well-being, loneliness and socialization, and overall just quality of life. Each session with every individual participant, so older adults, can take from 2 to 4 times with the volunteer calling them over the phone, and then eventually setting them up on Zoom, and then talking to them over Zoom. And then they can transition over to answering any other technology questions they may have. What I believe is the most interesting about this program is that these are all students that have a future in healthcare and science, and they first came to the Connectors Project being scared to speak to older adults, or they were just not comfortable speaking to older adults. The older that they got, the more scared they were. But they really wanted to learn how to speak to older adults and to kind of open themselves up to shedding that fear. So as a connector, each volunteer learns the following skills during this project, during this program. They learn patience, creativity, and critical thinking. And most importantly, they learn how to make friends with people that need socialization and a community, especially this time during COVID. This is what is so important about intergenerational programs. Each generation can teach each other something valuable. We may be called the Connectors Project, but as you can see, there is a lot more to that name. It's not just people teaching technology, but it's also the social connection that comes with it. So in this world of algorithms, hashtags, and followers, these students can learn the true importance of human connection. And that is the true definition of a connector. And as we start this journey of the Connectors Project, we are starting to collect data to see how much of a difference this can have on the participants' mental health. For example, we are collecting data for loneliness, anxiety of technology, anxiety of learning new technology. And then we wish to see how things change going through the program, so a before and after piece, but with taking a series of surveys. So far, it's in its very early stages, but we have 37.5% that have been 70 to 74 years old. And when asked in the beginning, before they did our program, how lonely they currently felt, most ranged in the 2 or 3 range, which 1 is being not lonely at all, and 5 being very extremely lonely. This is interesting because 37.5% said that they saw a family member or friend or a loved one about 1 to 2 times a week. And then 12.5% said they didn't see anyone at all during the week. So I believe this shows that it is hard to measure loneliness within yourself. We all want to think we are okay. And we hide from our feelings that could be more severe than you may realize. From an author and psychologist, Michelle Lim, she says, when researchers ask people whether they're lonely, some deny or reject the idea. But when asked in a different way, like they would like some company, some of the same people would say yes. She points out in her article that there is a social stigma on feeling lonely, and we tend to blame ourselves for those feelings. Unfortunately, those feelings will not just go away, and we feel like they should, or we hope they should just go away on their own. The only way, though, is to take action and accept the helping hand that is being offered to you right in front of you. And as I tell volunteers, and as a caseworker and gerontologist, we need to be more aware of the people around us. Lend them an ear, a smile, a wave, anything that shows that they are acknowledged. That can be the biggest thing and most important thing that you may take from this presentation today. Some other interesting results we have seen so far is the confirmation of how this age group does not typically feel confident with technology. As you can see, 50% of our participants so far are saying that they are a 2 on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being not confident at all, and not being very confident with technology. So, but when asked how nervous they are about learning new technology, most participants admit they are quite nervous. When talking to them, they seem to lack confidence in themselves and don't know if they are capable of even learning technology. They're a little hesitant, and they need to be you need to talk to them pretty slowly, and you have to convince them that they can do it. This shows anxiety and low confidence or self-esteem issues. There are various reasons for anxiety and low confidence or self-esteem. For example, lack of knowledge, fear of using technology, health related barriers, or cost issues. They may not have the means to have a computer or other technology. And lastly, I want to emphasize technology like iPads, apps, Zoom, they were not made, for older adults. Programmers, inventors, were not thinking typically about people who have, a hard time seeing or hearing or using their joints in their hands. And for those that know how to use the smart technology that helps overcome those barriers, they are most likely in a younger age group. And this is where intergenerational programs can help. We can teach our older adults how to use these programs, this technology, so that they don't get stuck behind and that they can continue to learn and connect. And they're not lonely anymore. Though that doesn't mean that most older adults don't want to learn. Believe it or not, after they were taught Zoom by our volunteers, then asked would they be interested in using video chat or Zoom to reach out to family members, friends, and loved ones. So far, 100% have said yes. So I am excited to continue this project and collect more data and help more older adults connect to technology like Zoom, and so that they can connect to our great volunteers to help them stay less lonely. So taking a look at some other projects that are currently being worked on, the same goals, which are keeping people engaged, socially connected, mentally healthy, and educated. A project called Conversation Cafes started in the beginning of the pandemic in the early 2020s. And we reached out to long-term care facilities and assisted living centers to set up Zoom presentations in their great rooms or community rooms. And this was when residents were locked inside, they had no visitors, and we were really worried about their social isolation and loneliness in these facilities. And so we wanted to try to set up these conversation cafes where we were able to do a nice presentation about a topic that might be educational or enjoyable. And the idea was to talk to them from the outside in. And we wanted them to talk back too. Though we ran into some issues, we found that the facilities lacked the technology to actually set some of these things up. There was only a handful of facilities that could do it. And then we had a lack of staff in each facility due to the virus, because a lot of the healthcare workers were getting the virus. And then the residents, couldn't participate the way we would want them to, due to the lack of technology too. So the main idea is for the residents to learn, engage, and converse. This project still is being worked on, and we are trying to solve the problems that we kind of ran into before. Hopefully we'll start those up pretty soon again. Another project in the start of that's in the start is the Silver Hearts radio station. We connected to iHeartRadio and are trying to build a new radio station that will focus on mental wellness, some interesting topics, like maybe some podcasts, some music from certain eras, and more. Since this is an age group that is accustomed with radio, they grew up with it, we thought it would be, this would be one of the best ways to provide them information and overall wellness. And we're hoping that Silver Heart radio station will start in late June. So looking back at, on my time as a caseworker, I've come to a conclusion about how important community action is during a natural disaster. I have summed up how to execute community services during a pandemic into 3 steps. Step 1 is to identify the populations that are most at risk and find out their needs. In my work as a gerontologist, I found that older adults definitely needed some outreach, and I was very worried about their loneliness and isolation. Number 2 is be creative. Think about ways to reach out to the population that you are working on and find out ways that you can help. And number 3 is reach out to nonprofits, senior centers, long-term care facilities, homeless shelters, local businesses, schools, and more. The list goes on. You could reach out to so many things, and the connections are endless. One of my last projects that I did this year as a Utah Strong member was reach out to long-term care facilities and assisted living centers. And I organized a time I could help them celebrate various holidays. We started in the winter of 2020. I kind of got the ball rolling in November, and I was able to use window markers to draw on the windows outside the facilities. Not only were the facilities really grateful to have us help give the residents kind of a celebratory vibe, because they told me that, the lack of staff, they just, during the pandemic, they could not put decorations together during these holidays. And it was, since they didn't have any visitors and they were essentially kind of trapped inside, they really appreciated having someone put up some decorations for them on the outside. And the residents loved watching us draw on the windows. They would kind of sit and either in a community center or like in the hallways, and watch us draw. And they also liked just looking at our drawings later. They would keep them up as long as possible. We would go there about 2-3 weeks before the holiday, so they would stay on up. If we needed to take them down, we would clean the windows for them. And also, they loved conversing from the outside in. We would write backwards on the windows and wave, put different inspirational words on the windows. Sometimes I would talk through the windows. They could kind of hear me and ask, what should I draw for them, or what's their favorite color. And I would try to do as much as I could to make them get a smile out of them, even if it was me being goofy. And I loved being able to show how much I cared about them. And I think that's just all they needed, was to see that there was someone, at least one person there, that cared for them enough to draw something on their windows. But usually I had my fiance with me all the time, and then some of the other Utah Strong members too. Now I would like to show you just a montage of, the best moments that I had reaching out to these facilities during the pandemic, and making sure that these residents knew that we loved them and that they were always being thought about, and they were not alone. So I hope you enjoy. In a time when one might feel like they're only seeing his own reflection, it only takes to wave back that they are not alone. That's where we come in. So it's easy to spread the love. Whether it's drawing a picture, smiling, telling an instrument in a public setting, the ideas are endless. Remember, we're Utah Strong. Just like our mountains, there are lows and there are highs. But as a community, we will reach the top together. Now, if you have any questions, please write them in the discussion box and I would be happy to answer them. And thank you all for listening to my speech. And I hope that we can stay Utah Strong and continue to unite as a community. So let's see that spark ignite. Thank you.
And then Brianna, if you click the QA, you should be able to see all the questions. Do you see that in the bottom right?
Let's see here. I just need to stop sharing. There we go. Yes, I do. All right. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for answering some of those my questions. Yes, I'm trying to be more active. Much needed to get that blood rushing back to the brain, and sleeping more for sure. Yeah. We, I think, lack a lot of our sleep, and if you, as you can, as I said, loneliness and depression, isolation can lead to diminishing sleep. So you have to be kind of aware of that. Maybe have a sleep diary with you. Walking, yeah, going outside. I love, yeah, anything that can keep you going, exercising, getting the blood moving, yeah, eating healthier, good. Okay, music therapy, yes. Huge benefit with dementia, for sure. And for everybody. Definitely one of my favorites, yeah.
Hey, Brianna.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question. Can you tell us more about the intergenerational piece of the project?
Oh, of course. So we started with a grant from AARP, and I am in collaboration with the HMHI Geriatric Psychiatry Clinic, and their director, Dr. Christina Perganan, showed that they really needed help with, since they are keeping their patients at home and doing everything virtual, and they use Zoom. They want to keep everybody safe. They were having a hard time having these older adults connect. And so we thought, well, why don't we have a connectors project where we have volunteers, and we should get some college students that actually could then learn how to, go into maybe geriatrics, and kind of encourage them to go into geriatrics, or just for their daily life, and not be scared of older adults anymore. And then we kind of hit two birds with one stone right there. And we want them to help them connect with their telehealth, but we also wanted them to improve upon their technology in everyday life, because these older adults were, stuck at home a lot, not, their families are out of state, and then, yeah, during the pandemic, they're not going to senior centers as much, and so this was an opportunity to get them connected to maybe like even a virtual senior center if needed.
Brianna, we're looking at 5 minutes, dear.
Okay, thank you. So that was kind of the idea. So,
do you see the question? Is there a project only for HMHI geriatric psychiatric
clinic? We are actually opening it up. It first started in just the clinic, but now we're opening this project up to everybody.
Okay, she's asking also if you have resources for other older adults that are not patients, and would you be willing to share your slides?
Oh, yes, I'd be willing to share my slides. And also, we do have, so if you wanted to become a help with our phone calls to help get people to connect, you could always contact me. That would be great. And also, we will need help with the conversation cafes. We will need help with these the Silver Heart Radio. So all of those are for the state of Utah. And if you are interested in helping the community out, reach out to me. I will put my information up, and I could always send out the slides. Where should I put up my information? I guess you could.
I think you can you share it?
Yeah, okay. I'll share it. So you could always, is that not? Why can't I send it? Okay, I can't send it. Why can't I send it? I don't know why it's not allowing me to send, but it's not allowing me to send. But it's my brianna.sisifo@gmail.com.
Yeah, you can get that information from us too, probably on our website. So Brianna, I want to thank you so much for this presentation. It was so helpful and informative.
Thank
This
you.
is we've reached the end of our session. So I want to thank everyone for coming. This session was called Protecting Our Aging Population Against Loneliness and Isolation. So have a great day, and we look forward to seeing everyone at our next session. Thank you.
Thank you.